What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Bronx Pinstripe Show. Scott, maybe you should be doing the intro since I'm just your sidekick.
Well, that's what happens when you disappear from social media.
I'm so happy I'm not on Twitter anymore. It's the best decision I ever made.
Yeah. So you are the sidekick. I mean, you know, it's one of those things that when the communication goes through one person and the other person is there for conversation, then I guess they don't know the name. But yeah,
I was there. I was present. Maybe not as present as you. But at least people are at least he knows we're different people. Since a lot of people who have listened to this podcast since 2015 still don't know who's who and what's what and whatever.
YouTube, man. YouTube's helping that. YouTube, because now they could see our faces, our beautiful older faces. We should have done this a long time ago when we were younger and more beautiful.
Yeah, we should have had a YouTube back in 2015, and we just didn't because who the hell knows. Also, the amount of people for the first few years that were like, "Are you guys related?" I'm like, "You see the names, right? You see the names are different. I know they're both R's, but those are different letters after the R."
You could be cousins. Cousins have different last names sometimes.
But they thought we were related because we were blood related.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah.
So anyway,
but we're not. Although there are some very strange ties in our personal lives that have woven in the past, which are really eerily weird. That are just complete coincidences. With your wife knowing people that I grew up with very well.
Right.
You living in a town that I essentially grew up with. Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. Oh, by the way, I'm coming there. I forgot to tell you that. We gotta link up soon.
Okay. Do you want to see me or no? Doesn't sound like you do.
No. You know, these are plans that just kind of came together yesterday, I think. So that's why this is really the first time I've been able to mention it. You're lucky I mentioned it because I would have forgotten. Usually I forget these things and then I'm like, oh shit, I'm on the way here. Guess who else
I'm
lives
assuming
here?
It's next week for Christmas?
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe I'll see you. You coming to Ramsey?
Coming to Ramsey.
Okay. Cool. Maybe I'll see you. Maybe we can record. Maybe you can be sitting right here next to me next episode and we could just do this in person looking at a camera. I don't know. That would be weird.
That's aggressive.
We would still do it remotely. This is Thursday. We usually record on Wednesdays in the off season. We delayed it a day for a couple of reasons. We thought maybe Yamamoto might sign with the team. There's a lot of smoke around that fire. So
as soon as we said that out loud, we knew damn well that wasn't going to happen.
No.
As soon as we put it out into the world of hey, you know what? Let's give it another day. Zero chance it's going to happen. It's going to happen right after this, and then we're going to have to record again.
We were trying to avoid exactly that scenario where we finish recording at 10 o'clock in the morning on a Wednesday, and at 11 a.m. there's news that he signs with the team because that's happened to us so often. So maybe we'll give it another day and something would happen. I don't know, though. Do you think it's going to happen this weekend? I feel like this weekend, because Christmas also is on a Monday. So starting this Friday, nothing's happening for 4 straight days.
Yeah, if you listen to everybody who's talking about this, one, they're in a vacuum and all they do is complain that there's an insane amount of misinformation around this specific negotiation, quote unquote. But two of the guys that have been following it pretty closely are talking about Friday this week in some capacity. So maybe, we'll see. I don't know. I'm not going to pretend to know, but at the same time, I hope it does. He's got till January 4th, right? That's the cutoff. That's that's when he does have to make a decision by. So, it could happen now, or it could happen all the way up until any day until January 4th.
There is I think this was a 30 for 30 or something. I forget what this story is, but basically, unfortunately, it's how the Red Sox ended up acquiring Curt Schilling back in the day. Is Theo Epstein traveled to Curt Schilling's house in Arizona because he was with the Diamondbacks at that time on Thanksgiving and literally showed up at his door on Thanksgiving morning, unannounced, and convinced him to come to the Red Sox because the Yankees were also in contention for trading for Curt Schilling. And this was right after the Yankees had swooped in and signed, what's his name? The Cuban pitcher. Why am I drawing a blank on this guy's name? Contreras?
Yes, Jose Contreras.
Jose Contreras, which was a disaster. But the Red Sox were also heavy in on Jose Contreras, and the Yankees swooped in. So the Red Sox were pivoting, and they're like, all right, we got to do something immediate. And so maybe this is an opportunity if Brian Cashman really wants to land Yamamoto, show up at his door, wherever he is. I think he's in the U.S. traveling around right now. Show up at his hotel room Christmas morning or Christmas Eve to just put that over the top. Here's a bag of money, and also come to the Yankees.
Like Santa Claus, just throw a beard on and
you should dress up like
the
Santa
bag
Claus.
of money.
You've seen Brian Cashman propel down the buildings in a Santa hat.
Rappel.
Rappel. What did I say? I'm
propel.
Sick. It's whatever.
He's not a helicopter.
He was propelling down. He was swooping in. Santa hat, bag of money, or maybe Hal can do it. I don't know. Someone show up.
That would be different. Hal showing up with a bag of money.
You like a giant bag of money? I would.
I would love a bag of money. I would love Hal Steinbrenner to deliver a bag of money to me. That would be amazing. That would really just, I think, knock the boots off of Yankees fans. And like, George is back, he's back. This guy's throwing around cash now too. So yeah, that would be a good thing. Look, at the end of the day, we're looking at what Yamamoto is, and part of the conversation that we're going to have today is, I think, looking at, where the price is driven, because it's seemingly, I know we talked about this on the last episode a little bit, but it's gone up. It's gone up a good amount, and
it goes up with every day.
As you said, as the rumor mill is expressing, it's gone up. There's a lot of people involved. The Phillies, I think, just made an offer as well. So what was close to 100 to 150 to 200 to 250. You're looking at probably 250 to 300 million. And I've seen anything between 8 and 12 years. Like it's a lot.
12 years. He's 25 years old, which is the same age that Tanaka was when he came over. Although Japanese pitchers, I think, they start earlier in like the professional league than major league pitchers for the most part. I know Tanaka was pitching in the professional Japanese league when he was like 19 years old or something like that. I don't know if Yamamoto, I can look that up quickly. But yeah, the original contract projections for Yamamoto, I remember when we were doing our GM plans, were in the 7-year, $200 to $220 million range, which is between 29, 30 million AAV. And now, like you said, the projections are 10 years, 300 million. So still around 30 million AAV, but 3 extra years.
Yeah, and I think if it were to climb to this
he was 18 years old in his first.
Yeah, the numbers are going to be to spread out, like those years. I believe would be to spread out the contract, to lower that AAV as well. But it's just it's a really big investment for someone, obviously, that hasn't thrown in the major leagues. I don't really think that's as much of a consideration. I don't think it's really a consideration at all for a lot of the GMs, because they believe that everything translates, that his stuff translates, that, we've seen enough success of guys coming over from Japan into the major leagues and have, tremendous success, really no drop off, to give them enough confidence that it really doesn't matter as much. On the other side of the offensive side is where you see potential drop off, but there's clearly I know that Cohen went over there. All the latest is that Yamamoto was in New York with a dinner with Cohen, and then was texting, saying, "Hey, Cashman, you around? Like, can we meet? And yeah, can we get together?" And so he met with both teams, and Cohen flew over to Japan and met with them, but Cashman and company have been over in Japan scouting him, watching him pitch. They were there when he pitched his no-hitter. Like, they have been all in on Yamamoto for quite some time now. So it's not like it's not going both ways. Like he intimately knows the New York Yankees and Brian Cashman at this point, for them to make a good decision. And it's, you mentioned, or you asked last week, if I think it'll go to the highest bidder. I think it was around him, or maybe it was around Ohtani, but I think at this point, like I said last week, I think that the highest bidder is going to be so close to the next highest bidder, and possibly even to the next highest bidder, that this guy's just going to pick the situation he wants. At the end of the day, he's going to pick the situation he wants. And if it's the Yankees, if he wants to go to New York and you choose the Mets, then okay, yeah, there's probably a significant dollar amount difference, because otherwise you're picking the Yankees. I don't know. I don't know why you would think that the Mets give you a better chance to win at this point.
Well, what if he obviously wants to win? He's not going to, well, for many reasons, he's not going to sign with a bad team because a bad team's also not going to be in contention for him. But what if he also wants to be the man? Because I've also read some things on him that a reason he might not be with go with the Dodgers anymore is because Ohtani, and he doesn't want to live in Ohtani's shadow. What if he wants to be the guy, the number one guy on whatever team he signs with? And there's Garrett Cole with the Yankees. Garrett Cole is the Yankees' number one pitcher in 2024, whether they sign Yamamoto or not. So what if he wants to maybe be the leader on whatever team he signs with, which would then bring in the Giants in contention, which is also interesting because he's in direct competition in the same division with Ohtani. That could be something he might be interested in. Or the Mets, because that he would fill that role for the Mets, but he wouldn't be filling that role for the Yankees.
Yeah, be careful what you wish for, being in direct competition with the Dodgers in division at that point. Because
at that point, yeah, the Dodgers are definitely a better team than the Giants. But if he wants to go head to head with Ohtani, he would have a better. Also, I'm not ever going head to head with it. Like, I feel like Ohtani just like you're gonna lose. Ohtani is just gonna win.
Yeah, it's probably not the best choice to do that if you're looking for, some type of a showcase limelight situation. I would go to the other side of the country, play in the other league for the storied New York Yankees,
and maybe see him in the World Series.
There you go. That would be that's a showdown if you're able to get to the World Series and you have those two guys going up against each other. That's attention. That's a lot of attention right there.
So do you think so it's interesting because when the Yankees, all the reports around Soto, like we were saying Yankees have to trade for Soto. If this doesn't happen, what are they going to pivot to? That's going to be bad. I don't feel that same way with Yamamoto. If Yamamoto signs with another team, I don't feel like the Yankees are in a bad spot. And there's a couple reasons. I mean, one is because there's other options, which we can talk about. But also, I didn't go into this offseason thinking pitching was such a humongous need that they had to go get Yamamoto.
Yeah, but at the same time, you look at what it was last year, and pitching is certainly an issue. If you're there's a couple things that stem from not getting Yamamoto, in my opinion. If you're not getting Yamamoto is a 8, 10, 12-year contract, whatever it is. It's a long-term contract. It's setting you up for years beyond this. Obviously, with the Juan Soto signing, that's a 1-year deal. You're going after 2024, and you need to win there. If you sign him long-term, then great, but there's absolutely nothing indicating that that's going to happen at this point, and you can't bank on that. So if they don't get a guy like Yamamoto, looking at contingency plans, it's interesting because I think it could shift in how they are going after certain guys. And I think this brings back into play the situation that you and Logan had with Corbin Burns. Corbin Burns is a 1-year guy. He's a top flight guy. He's 29 years old, but he's going into a free agent year. If you lose Yamamoto, you still need to address pitching. Like, you absolutely have to address pitching. You can't say that Carlos Rodon, even though they tried to address it last year, is the guy that is going to be the number 2. He showed nothing remotely close to that guy at all. So them banking
not to
on
mention
that would
the
be
injury concerns, right? Like, if he was healthy all year and just had a bad year, you're like, okay, he needs to rebound, but at least he made 30 starts or something. But he was out for most of the season, so you just can't. That's not a reliable. In my mind, you can't go in saying that's a reliable piece. And unfortunately, you can't go into next year saying Nestor Cortez is a reliable piece because of the injuries. So you have Cole.
You could make an argument that
marks.
pitching. Yeah, you can make an argument that pitching is up there, even though the glaring effort that the Yankees had on the offensive side was terrible. And
yes, that was my point. That the offense
pitching
was a bigger need.
The pitching is still a thing.
It is still a need, and I think they will address it, whether they get Yamamoto or not. But the drop-off between acquiring Soto and then maybe pivoting to Bellinger in free agency or some other options was such a massive dip. I don't feel that same way with the options behind Yamamoto.
I think that's true. Well, because also not seeing Yamamoto, I think, helps that thought process too. But yes, there are other options.
That's a factor, but like also
competition is going to be a lot more steep for these other guys. Don't forget that too. Yamamoto, there are 3 teams yet, Mets, Yankees, and Dodgers that are truly in on him. Phillies, I know, made an offer. The Red Sox are the dark horse that you hear of. But when you start going after and you look at Snell, Montgomery, some of these other options, even like trading for a Cease, trading for Corbin Burns, like these are guys that are going to have a lot more competition in the major leagues as far as who can acquire them. So yes, you do have other options, but there is no guarantee that you can assemble a team that is going to satisfy your pitch on the pitching side. You can't do it. You can't just pay the guys to come over here anymore. You're going to have a lot more competition. Otherwise, you're way overpaying for a known commodity with a Jordan Montgomery or a Blake Snell or someone like that. So that's the other
saying
piece.
You're more overpaying for Snell or Montgomery than you are for Yamamoto, because Snell.
No, I'm
Montgomery...
saying as far as the market is dictating, what they are, what their range is. Yamamoto is a little bit more of a wild card, and I think that's another piece of why it's driving his price up. But yeah, you would clearly be overpaying for a Snell or clearly overpaying for a Montgomery if you needed to land those guys as a last effort. If you had to get those guys, you probably have to go in with a pretty significant offer that might be an overpay, because you're going to be competing with a lot more teams.
Could an argument be made that signing Jordan Montgomery for $150 million is safer than signing Yamamoto for $300 million?
Yeah, I can make an argument that you put that $300 million to better use if you're signing 2 guys. But again, it changes the dynamic of what you're doing.
Yeah. And also, like, if you trade for Corbin Burns, like you said, he's going to hit free agency after this year. He's got 1 more year of team control. Why does that completely take you out of a free agent starting pitcher? That shouldn't. You could also say the Yankees need 2 starting pitchers, especially because they just traded away Michael King.
Yeah, I think they actually do. And but again, like, that's a trade. So a trade is something that's difficult to bank on, especially with the Brewers. I mean, they're in a position now that they do have a lot of leverage with Burns. As soon as Yamamoto signs, the Brewers are just like, pining, chomping at the bit to get to this. What's your best offer? Like, let's see what it is. We're going to talk about us competing for a while and tell everybody that we're competing, but are we really competing?
Although, couldn't you see Cashman not wanting to trade more prospects away for Corbin Burns after?
Well, that's the thing. Traded? That's the thing. They're going after now. That's where I think the interesting conversation happens around strategy. Is Brian Cashman just going after 2024 at this point? Because with Juan Soto, you need to capitalize on next year and next year alone.
You don't have Juan Soto beyond next year right now.
You can't wait. You can't just say, okay, we'll get a guy that will be a really good long-term deal, but not have the 2024 season addressed. And that's why Corbin Burns coming in is really interesting at that point, because now if you're going after 2024 and the long-term options are not as enticing for 2024, then yeah, Corbin Burns, I think, becomes more of a clear option for Cashman at that point.
But you could,
and then we do this all over again, and then we do this all over again next offseason.
But you could sign Montgomery or Snell for 6 years, which is a long-term option. You could trade for Corbin Burns, which is a short-term option that could turn into a long option, the same way you traded for Juan Soto and Verdugo, which are short-term options that could turn into long-term options. Yes,
you could. But again, the stress of importance on 2024, if you don't sign Yamamoto, to me becomes even higher. So that way, then yes, I think you go back to the Corbin Burns. I think Corbin Burns actually becomes more of an opportunity at that point. That's where I'm going. And then yes, looking at something for like Montgomery would make a lot more sense at that point to sustain, some of the pitching on for long term. But like Burns becomes you get that much more of an option.
If the Yankees sign Yamamoto 10 years, let's call it 10 years, 300. Yeah. You'd probably say they're done, right? For as far as like significant.
I still think they add another pitcher, but as far as like a major move, probably not.
A move that you would get excited about.
Well,
okay.
Depends who it is.
My point is, you could more realistically see them signing Montgomery and trading for Burns than signing Yamamoto and signing Yamamoto and signing another pitcher, and trading for another pitcher. Because I think all of this 300 is so massive.
It all depends if they don't, I think they're going after Yamamoto no matter what. I think that's it.
Clearly, they're going after him.
No, my point is if they lose out on Yamamoto, then what is that secondary option? So you take Yamamoto out of the equation for a minute, assume that they don't sign him. That's where I think Corbin Burns becomes more attractive because you have to lock down 2024. You have to prioritize 2024 over long-term deals at that point. So he becomes the priority. He's the best pitcher on the market at that point, right? Best pitcher on the market. So, or on the market.
Snell just won the Cy Young.
Snell's, yeah. I for whatever reason, like
I'm not a huge Snell guy. I don't want the Yankees.
He
to
walks
sign
a ton
Snell.
of guys. There's.
I think he's
way
too
things
much
around Snell.
You talk about exactly. You talk about a wild card in Yamamoto because we've never seen him pitch in the major leagues. I think Snell, even though we just saw him win the Cy Young, is a wild card bringing him to New York. And you already have a wild card with Carlos Rodon. Okay, that's why I like the idea of bringing Montgomery back because that's not a wild card. Is he going to be the Jordan Montgomery we've seen since the Yankees traded him away? I don't know. I hope so. I would hope so. But if he's somewhere between the Yankees Montgomery and the Cardinals/Rangers Montgomery, that is a very consistent number 3 in your rotation that pitches every 5th day. Go look at his Baseball Reference. He goes out there and takes the ball every 5th day, and that's something this rotation, other than Cole, does not have.
Yeah, no, I agree. I 100% agree. And so Montgomery, I still think is in play no matter what. But again, 2024 becomes that much more needed to address. So Corbin Burns, I think, becomes a priority at that point.
Yeah.
And because it's a trade, you could go parallel path. Like signing Jordan Montgomery doesn't matter. Doesn't really change what you're doing.
No, that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
With Corbin Burns, you do that anyway, but Corbin Burns becomes more of a priority at that point, I think.
So back in the GM episode,
you almost have to overcompensate for not getting Yamamoto because 2024 becomes that much more important because of Juan Soto potentially leaving.
Yeah, you got to maximize. Yeah,
you got to maximize it. So you got to go after it. And if Corbin Burns, he's the 1 year guy that comes in, you're bringing, a potential top of the rotation type guy in there. The more I'm talking about it, the more I'm thinking you probably do it anyway. And you have both of them at that point. Even if you sign Yamamoto, again, like we're looking at the minor leagues and what's going to get Corbin Burns? Is there a package that's still giving up more prospects that you still feel comfortable with that could lead that trade negotiation amongst other players, amongst other teams?
So the package that Logan and I came up with for Corbin Burns in our GM episode was Clark Schmidt, Drew Thorpe, and Trey Sweeney. Now, obviously, Thorpe and Sweeney have both been dealt already this offseason, so you'd have to replace those prospects. But that basically got you to an even package, according to that Baseball Trade Values website, of 32 value for Corbin Burns. And then Clark Schmidt has a value of 17 right now, and then those prospects had a value of combined, to make up the difference. So the Yankees would have to trade probably Clark Schmidt. So you're taking out a rotation piece, even if Clark Schmidt is only going to be a number 5 rotation piece. You're taking out a rotation piece to add a better rotation piece plus some prospects. Because I would imagine the Brewers, even if they know they're not going to compete next year, still want a young, controllable starting pitcher.
Yeah. So again, that is going after it in 2024 at that point. Can you replace a guy like Clark Schmidt? Yeah, you can. I think you can replace again. Yes. You have to. They're in a position now where you have to maximize everything for next year. You have to. And if that means, getting Clark Schmidt has what, 3 more years of control? Two after 2024? Something like that.
I'm going to quickly look that up. I think it's 2 more.
Yeah. Again, you get back into that situation where you're looking at, do I value Corbin Burns for 1 year or a guy like Clark Schmidt for additional years?
So this is he's a Super 2 player, so he's going to have 4 years of arbitration instead of 3 years of arbitration, and so we're entering his first year of arbitration. So his earliest free agency is 2028.
Okay, that's
4, 5, 6, 7. He's got 4 years of team control.
Yeah,
but he's a Super 2 player, and what that means is he'll make more money than he would have otherwise in arbitration.
Who gives a shit? But again,
I'm sure he gives a shit.
No, I'm saying from the Yankees side, who gives a shit if you're making a little bit more? You're still controlling that player. The control is still there for looking at other teams. So yeah, it's a lot to pay for a guy at 1 year. But again, because of Juan Soto now, because of the moves that they've made, you have to go after 2024. I know I keep saying that, but it's like you look at the two different strategies of Yamamoto, which yes, you're going after 24, but it also solidifies your future. If you don't get Yamamoto, I think Brian Cashman now has to become a 2024 assassin. He's got to go after everything for next year. You have to.
Otherwise, the Verdugo Soto moves don't make any sense. If you stop short,
it doesn't matter.
If you stop short, what was the point of going and acquiring those two outfielders?
Don't stop short with me. Don't stop short with me. I'm not that kind of guy. This is
right. That's the argument we have talked about with this team, with the budget that they've seemingly been operating under. You are only hamstringing yourself when you go to a certain point, and then there's one more piece that maybe puts you over the top or puts you in that much better of a position, but you stop because of an arbitrary budget you have put on yourself. What is the point of that? What is the difference, really, Hal, of spending $300 million on payroll or $275 million on payroll? I understand there is literally a value difference, but come on. You're already spending at the top of the league. You're already spending a ton in luxury tax. Just go do it so you can have a better chance to win.
I think it's an old narrative at this point. I think that they've talked about, going over it and being
I'm talking about previous years. I'm talking about 2018 through now.
Okay. Let's not dwell on the past. Let's look at right now. He's talking about going over it. He also says that, shouldn't need to go over it, but this is the situation we're in. You got to go over it.
Yeah, this shouldn't need to go over it. Why do you think he keeps saying that? That's just a reminder. It's like a little jab. That's just a little jab to Brian Cashman. Like, hey.
I will spend the money, but I shouldn't have to.
Yeah, like you have not built a very for the amount of money that I'm spending on this roster, this is not a good roster for how much money I'm spending on it. And that's your fault.
Yeah, totally. And one of the just if we're looking at Corbin Burns, one of the first guys they're going to ask for, Spencer Jones. Spencer Jones is definitely one of the guys that they're going to be going after.
I don't know, not anymore, maybe because he's not working with Teacher Man.
Yeah, apparently. So that's something that we were unaware of. It came about, obviously, just quickly to address the we were inferring that it was Spencer Jones because we were led to believe that, but not the case. I guess for clarity purposes,
we can take our hand up a little bit. So after the recording ended, we did not ask him who the player was, and we probably should have done that. Yes.
Yeah, we should have directly.
Maybe he wouldn't have told us, right? Maybe he would have still not. Maybe he still would have been secretive about it. But yeah, we guessed Spencer Jones for a number of reasons, as you heard in the podcast. But no, we have learned it's not
pretty
Spencer
definitive
Jones.
Guesses based off of the information we had. But yes, not Spencer Jones. Don't know who the player is. So looking for someone in AA to
go look at the AA
up.
roster and I guess throw a dart at the wall to see who else it might be. What's Anthony Siegler's in AA, but I don't know. Maybe it's Siegler.
Ben Rice. There's a few guys that have rumors that are attached, but we'll see. But that said, like you're going after a Corbin Burns guy, they're going to ask for Spencer Jones, and that's where the Yankees have to make that decision whether they believe that they have something in their minor league system with their number one prospect at this point, or they value a guy like Corbin Burns for 2024 going after the win the World Series and giving up a prospect like that. That would be a tough pill to swallow. I think a lot of Yankee fans would have a serious problem with that. But again,
really?
It's the situation. I think they would. But it's the situation that Brian Cashman has put himself in with this roster.
Why would they have a problem with that? Because you signed Soto long term, and then you're not even. It's like fine, you're solved.
Yeah, but that's a lot of assumptions. You're assuming that they can do that. Everything we know is that he's going to hit free agency, and that's going to be a bidding war.
Yep,
that's what's going to happen.
So go win the bidding war. Assuming things go well this year with Soto in New York, which I'm assuming, just go win the bidding war. You can do that.
They could do that.
So other alternatives to not getting Yamamoto, other than like we talked about Montgomery, Snell, and Corbin Burns, Shota Imanga, who's another Japanese pitcher. He's left-handed, is also out there who was posted and going to be potentially signing in the major leagues. He's 30 years old, looking at like a 5-year, $85 million contract, I guess there's some reports. I would not touch this guy with a 10-foot pole.
I see the 5 years, 85 just came from some articles that I've seen. Clearly that the numbers that have been early on some of these guys have been low. So I would expect him probably closer to like a Montgomery contract. And at that point, go get Montgomery.
No, see,
but yeah.
these second rate sounds offensive. These not the top Japanese pitchers, they never get those big contracts. So I would be shocked if he gets over $100 million. This screams, by the way, the Yankees losing out on Daisuke Matsuzaka in 2007 or Keiagawa. 2006 and pivoting to Keiagawa, who rode the Scranton bus and the Trenton bus for his entire career because he could not pitch in the major leagues.
He was a terrible pitcher.
Awful.
The fact that this guy's a lefty, I don't want to put them in the same bucket because they're two different people. That has nothing to do.
But it would be
nothing
almost
to do with the other.
Time is a flat circle. Okay, yeah. Time is a flat circle. Yankees miss out on the top Japanese pitcher, pivot to the second Japanese pitcher, and that guy sucks.
Yeah. So yeah, then again, everything goes back to Jordan Montgomery at that point. So.
Yeah, and to quote our buddy JJ, at least Jordan Montgomery knows how to get to the stadium. He doesn't have to learn a new route. He could maybe he still owns his apartment or his house in the New York area.
I doubt it. I think he sold.
Okay, well,
I have a feeling Jordan Montgomery
buy a much bigger house now.
I have a feeling Jordan Montgomery likes living outside the city. Just a gut feeling on him.
He's a Westchester guy, or he's not a Greenwich guy. I don't see him living with Boone and Carlos Rodon and Cole in Greenwich, Connecticut.
No, I could see him in like Western New Jersey.
That's a far drive.
It is a far drive. Stretch it out, closer to Scranton. I feel like he wants to be off the grid a little bit. He comes across as that kind of guy, a little bit more country, a little bit more give me my space.
CC moved to Summit, New Jersey, which is right across the bridge. I don't see Montgomery as a Summit, New Jersey guy. He's probably a maybe Northern Westchester guy. A little bit more country vibe in Northern Westchester. You're not going more than an hour from the stadium.
No, you can. He's going to stretch out. He needs a little bit of space. Doesn't want to be in the shit, and wants to be able to, to be able to go back to his place and it be quiet.
There's no way he's living out even as far as I do in Jersey, because if I were to drive to Yankee Stadium at 1:00 in the morning, it's taken me 45 minutes. Otherwise, it's taken me over an hour and a half.
That's what I'm saying. I would go north and possibly northwest.
Yeah, that's a rough route to the stadium. I guess maybe he could hire Blade. Now that he's going to be a $150 million guy, he could just take a helicopter to the stadium every day.
It's true. You could. It's not that bad. Work that into the contract. Yankees are in a desperate time right now. Oh, you want me back? Guess what? I'm throwing the fastball, and I want
helicopter ride to the stadium to and from.
Helicopter and fastball.
Yeah, let me throw my fastball. All right. So in some other news, the Yankees claim Jeter Downs. Do you think they did this just because his name is Jeter? Because this guy sucks at baseball.
He sucks at baseball.
Jeter Downs was one of the players the Yankees acquired, or excuse me, the Red Sox acquired in the Mookie Betts trade. So now
who's the other player?
Now the Yankees have two of the players the Red Sox acquired from Mookie Betts.
Yes.
There was one other. I think there was a couple other prospects in that trade. I don't know who they are, but I know it was Verdugo and Jeter Downs were like the headliners.
So one thing that's interesting about Jeter Downs, and maybe this is a little foreshadowing for what Cashman has up his sleeve as far as trade options and such. Peraza doesn't have any more options. That's a problem, I think, for a player like him. He's at this point, his prospect status has dwindled upon. I don't know what value he has, if any, on the major league level with trade talks and such. But he doesn't have any more options at this point. Jeter Downs does have options. He's got an option left. He can play second. He could play short. He could play third. If you're looking at him as more of a defensive utility guy, someone who can come in and play different positions, run the bases, be able to stay in AAA for, if they need him. That's where I think that there's optionality with a guy like that. It's probably why they signed him. He's got a major league glove. And then Peraza, I think that you have the ability to trade him anyway, but now it gives you a little bit more insurance in AAA for a defensive guy that can play multiple positions. So If
Sure.
you're looking for like a next level move, potentially, not that it's a major move by any means, but he could definitely fill that spot of a utility guy that Peraza, because he's got the flexibility with the defensive positions that he plays.
Yeah, and then also I think you pulled this from maybe one of the articles. The Yankees have some roster flexibility up for the 40-man right now, so they're able to put some of these claims in to just keep their options open.
Yeah, and again, like Peraza, the fact that he doesn't have any options to me is just like screaming trade. At this point, he's screaming trade, because there's really no place for him. The Yankees are going to have some flexibility, I think, with that spot.
I also don't understand. Like, I know we've looked this up a dozen times. I don't understand how options work. How is he out of options? The first time we saw him, the first
service time thing, an age
thing,
thing, and then the amount of times you've come up and down.
Yeah, but like the 2022 season was the first time we saw him, and he's already out of options. And I feel like he was barely in the majors. I mean, they didn't play him, but like, I don't know. He's lost all value. Come on, let's be real. He's lost all value.
He has, but he's a player that can fill in. He's absolutely lost all value. Jeter Downs, he was a first round pick, wasn't he? He was a first round pick. I mean, it was back
Jeter
in
Downs,
17, 18. He was a first round pick.
He got ample opportunities in the Red Sox system and was not good.
Yeah. Again, defensive guy. So if you think Peraza is more than just a defensive guy at this point, then maybe you believe more in that. But Jeter Downs, they're similar. They're similar in the sense. I'd say Peraza definitely has more upside on the offensive side. But if you're looking at both of those guys at potentially a utility defensive guy, they're not that different.
The Yankees have also shown interest in Jorge Soler, who opted out of his contract with the Marlins. He had a great season last year. He was an all-star, /250, 341, 512 with 36 home runs. And this would be interesting because he's primarily a DH. And I don't know why the Yankees would seriously pursue him for the roster, because obviously Stanton is an injury risk. We all know that, but you're not going to go into the season unless you know right now Stanton's not, like, unless Stanton has some injury that we're all unaware of that means he's not going to be ready to play until some point later in the year. I wouldn't understand this at all.
Yeah, it's a puzzling. The fact that they're even interested in Jorge Soler is he doesn't have flexibility in the outfield. He played some, what did you say,
32 games in right field last year.
But not a good defender at this point. He's a DH. He's got power. He's a guy that you could plug in as the DH, no problem. That's great. But yeah, there's obviously a player sitting there. So unless there's something that we don't know about, it's really just weird for them to even be interested in a guy like this, or even to be talking about him. And if they are going after a guy like that, if we're looking at a DH, if there is something going on with, like, I don't know if it's Jorge Soler that I'm going after. Frankly, if there were a DH, if we had to go get a DH right now and Stanton was not a thing for, that's not the reality. But if there's something that we don't know about, I would way rather sign JD Martinez than Jorge Soler.
Or you sign another outfielder that's a good defender and you just have Soto DH. Like,
you could do that too.
That's
I'm bringing more offense. I'm bringing more consistent offense. And I know Soler has big power numbers, but I think there are better fits around. I don't get it. I don't understand why they would do this unless there's something that we don't know about, because you're putting yourself in a situation where the amount of roster spots are dwindling down, and I don't know where he plays. Like, yeah. You're gonna play him and Stanton on against righty lefties. Are we doing that? You're eating a spot that you can't eat at this point in the DH because you have other guys that need to rotate in there.
Are you reading into a conspiracy here where maybe Stanton, they know something on Stanton, or they just don't trust Stanton so much that they're just going to sign another DH?
Again, I don't know how you fit that in the roster, though. That's the thing.
You fit it on the roster because Stanton's not going to be playing. You know he's going to get injured. I mean, Stanton's going to get injured this year. We all know it's going to happen. It's just a matter of when. Is it spring training? Is it April? Is it July? He's going to be injured. When's it going to happen?
Or he is injured and they're not talking about it. That's something else. I mean, I don't know. It's puzzling. Look at
how Stanton has played for the past year and a half. He's probably been injured for a year and a half.
Yeah. No, but it's a it's a strange fit to even just have discussions with them. And if the reports are correct, they were, reaching out to him as far as an interest level. That's weird.
Or they're just doing their due diligence. What's the word Cashman uses? Doesn't he have a phrase for it? Not due diligence, but it's some other similar phrase.
I don't remember.
That he probably read in a management book. You think Cashman's a management book guy?
I think he's like an old school management book guy, like one that Steinbrenner read.
From the 80s, like a boiler room type of management
book?
No,
I'm probably a pamphlet from like the 1800s that still that holds weight. So one of those generational strategy books.
See, I don't think that George Steinbrenner ever gave a flying fuck about a management book. I think
someone might have read it to him. Someone might have read him excerpts. Okay. George Costanza sitting there, getting calzones and reading management books to Steinbrenner, but
listening to him on tape.
Yeah, I was going to say that, but I think we're beyond before even that. Someone would have had to record it into a microphone. The fact that he's got
that was a Seinfeld episode. That was a Seinfeld episode where George was listening to a book on tape, but he didn't like it because the guy sounded too much like him. And it was just Jason Alexander doing like a whiny George voice. Oh my God, I've seen too much Seinfeld. Dylan Lawson signed with the Red Sox. They sure do love their analytics over there in Boston. Basically hired, Craig Breslow? He's basically just another analytics GM.
Yeah, and I think Lawson's going to be focused on the upper level minor league hitting, which makes a lot of sense, actually. Good. Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, maybe he can turn the Red Sox minor league hitting into the same juggernaut that the Yankees minor league hitting are, and then they get to the majors and they can't hit.
Yeah, purely to boost the farm system so that they can trade away guys that they know are not going to hit.
Except the Yankees haven't done that either. So what's the fucking point?
That's true. The last piece of news here that's fantastic. That's going down memory lane a little bit as we're talking about George Steinbrenner. Bernie Williams potentially back in the Yankees family because for whatever reason, not that he's left the Yankees family, he's still been in the Yankees family, but there was the way that they treated Bernie.
He's been in the Yankees family. He showed up once a year to play the national anthem on guitar.
Yeah. They did Bernie wrong at the end of his career. And he deserved better. He deserved to be mentioned in all of the things with the core four. It's a complete horseshit marketing scam that left out Bernie Williams for whatever reason. But Bernie potentially working with the Yes Network. What I was reading, I think in the Post, was that he's got the highest possibility is him working in the studio and possibly rotating, as one of the depth guys that they have at the Yes Network because they have like 18 guys.
Oh, so he's going to be a studio guy. He's not going to be
but possibly a studio guy. Yeah. I could see him. That's what the Post was saying is the higher likely of him being in the studio, maybe not traveling as much on the road.
Okay.
But they've been mixing and matching with guys like Cameron Maybin, who I think got a raw deal. He was good. Beltran.
Well, because Cameron Maybin didn't get a raw deal. He took a job with the Cubs.
Okay. The reason he took a job with the Cubs is because the Yankees didn't want to sign him back. People
are you sure?
I
thought he got a better job with the Cubs.
I think Cameron Maybin was pretty good. I liked him. And I know it took a little bit for people to grow on people, but I liked him.
So here's what happened with Cameron Maybin. Everyone was immediately comparing him to the vibe that Cohn and O'Neill had in the booth, who have been working together for years and years. So, of course, there's a drop-off there. And then we got Carlos Beltran, and everyone was like, oh, Cameron Maybin's great.
Well, Beltran just wasn't – yeah, he's not good in the booth. Maybin had things to say. Middle of the field approach, he just knew what was wrong the entire
That's the
time.
Problem. He just said that over and over and over again.
Because you know what? Apparently you need to be told things multiple times for them to actually listen. Now they're starting to listen. They're starting to get guys who can actually, put bat to ball and go towards the middle of the field and spray it a little bit. It's all Cameron Maybin was saying the whole time.
I mean, don't you think though, like the whole booth analyst thing is just, it's entertainment, man. It's getting less and less important with each.
It's never been important.
Year.
It's never been important, but it used to be
important where you could not consume the game any way except radio or television. That used to be the only way you could consume a game, whether it's baseball, football, basketball, whatever. Now you can consume games in 5,000 different ways.
Yeah, but you're still getting the same commentary. You're still
getting, you can consume it. You can consume a game on your phone only in Twitter highlights, or you can consume a game watching your podcasters live stream the thing. You can consume a game a freaking 1,000 different ways.
Okay, so you're asking why is it important? Yes, because I still watch the games in the broadcast. So for those that are still tuning into the Yes broadcast and watching the games and listening to the people talking, yes, it's important. I want the people that are.
I didn't say why is it important. I was saying it's getting less and less important with each passing year.
I don't think it's less important for the people that are watching the broadcast though. That's who we're talking to, and that's what we're talking about. Bernie Williams, who was obviously the nostalgia is there for anybody who lived through the 90s and the Yankees World Championships. But the guy is, he's articulate. He has some really good stories. He knows hitting inside and out.
He was great when I interviewed him. Go back and listen to that interview. Maybe we'll replay that next week because it's going to, maybe be a slow week. I interviewed him October 2022, I believe. Okay. And so we talked to him. I talked to him for like a half hour, asked him a bunch of questions. I talked to him about the thing you just mentioned about not being included in the core four, and if he was bitter about that, because his career did end dirty with the Yankees. 2006 was his last year. It was the end of his contract. He wasn't a great player at that point anymore, but the Yankees were in this mode of win-win, like do anything in your power to win again, even if it means give Bernie Williams the boot. He wanted to keep playing.
Yeah, of course he did. And he still had, I think, some game left in him. But so yeah. Anyway, bring Bernie back. I would love to have Bernie with the Yes crew. I think that would be fantastic. I'd love to hear some Bernie Williams stories.
Be good. But that's really what we're getting now. We're at the age now, Scott, where it's the same as like when my dad was watching games in the 90s, listening to the guys from the 70s on the broadcast. You realize that?
Yeah, I do. I get it. What'd you say? Time is a flat circle. It is. I understand that. So yes, give me the guys I want in the booth. But we've had that for a while with Cone and O'Neill. We've had that. So let's just continue to bring the band back together.
I don't know how this. I was thinking about this recently. If the Yankees don't win a World Series, basically this decade, they will have gone longer between World Series than they did between the 76 or 76, 77 World Series and then the 96 World Series. That was a 20-year gap. Yeah, 2009, if they don't win it by 2029, we're over a 20-year gap. And I know 2029 sounds like a long time away, but think about how recent 2017 feels.
Yeah, I know. No, it's crazy. It's crazy the fact that the New York Yankees, with all of the ability and means that they have not been able to put together a team that's won a world championship at this point.
Okay, that's gonna wrap it up.
2024, baby, got to go in.
We do have one more episode of 2023 that we'll record. Maybe there'll be kind of a best of. Maybe Scott and I will be talking about Yamamoto or some other signing. That'll be next week. Everyone have a very Merry Christmas and whatever else you're celebrating.
Happy holidays.
Just taking time off. Happy holidays. Enjoy it. And we'll talk to you next week.